It is the only financial asset that runs zero counterparty risk. And that's why central banks are accumulating it, and in fact have accumulated more than they have in 31 years.
Wow.
The highest level of accumulation. Now, the way that they can be accumulating all of this, and they're not the only ones, but the way that all this gold can be physical, can be accumulated, and you can see the price suppressed, is through spot contracts. So on the COMEX exchange, because one contract, and there are a number of different sizes, but for example, one contract that controls 500 ounces of gold costs a regular commercial bank like JP Morgan $150. If you're a central bank, it costs $110 to literally control about $1 million worth of gold. I saw with my own eyes, so I can verify this without a doubt, for every 1 ounce of physical gold that exists, there were 62,000 ounces of derivative gold, which is digital gold that does not nor ever will exist, because anything physical, there's a finite amount. So it's pretty easy to manipulate the price if the world is reading 62,000 ounces to one, and at a cost of $150 or $110. There used to be, and there still are, some legitimate uses for derivative. And derivative, you think about it, comes from derived, the word derived, right? If I'm a farmer and it's January and I'm going to sell my crops in September, and I don't know what is going to happen with the weather or anything between now and then, or the market, and I want to ensure that I'm going to live another year to plant my crops, then I will buy a derivative contract against whatever I'm growing, wheat or whatever, excuse me. And so if by the time it comes for me to sell my crops, everything's fine, that's just an insurance cost of doing business, no big deal. If, however, something bad happens, now I've guaranteed my income. That's a legitimate use for a derivative. But in the 90s, Wall Street taking over the derivative markets, now there are derivatives on everything, and you can never convert it into the underlying asset. And when I had done some studies, the last time that I did this, there were 1.48 quadrillion in notional value derivatives. That is simply the value that Wall Street has put on those contracts. It does not reflect the real value at risk. When we're talking about cryptocurrencies, really that too is purely these days especially, a Wall Street driven market where they're incorporating those cryptocurrencies. But I can see some use cases. It is really easy to transfer money from, America to Russia or China or wherever. It's easier to send it over. You don't have to ship it like you'd have to do with gold or even with silver. So while I do know that cryptocurrencies, and I would say really their central banks are going in with central bank digital currencies, CBDCs.
Yeah.
That is still in play. That does not have a very long history. I don't really think it was a coincidence that Bitcoin was born in January of 2009, and they started the heavy duty QE in March of 2009, and the NSA came out with a white paper in, I think it was 1996, on how to create a mint, talking about developing the cryptocurrencies. So, I could certainly be wrong. This is my opinion. But I do think that the cryptocurrencies were created to get us used to working in the digital realm so that it was easier for the governments to transfer our habits from just cryptocurrencies to CBDCs, programmable money. I don't own one stock. I don't own one bond. I don't own one fiat money product. I have cash because that's our tool of barter, but I have a level of cash that I must maintain because I'm running a business and I want to make sure I can pay everybody.
Yeah,
and I have a lot of cash out of the system. I keep a minimal amount inside the system. If you wait until you're in the middle of a crisis, like you look at what's happening in Russia with the population, the Russian central bank has halted their gold purchases because the demand from their citizens as the ruble is being decimated it's in a frenzy. And so gold in terms of rubles are ridiculous right now, right? So when do you want to get ready? You want to get ready before you need to be ready. And personally, I'd rather be 10 years too early than even 1 second too late, because that's when you lose every single choice. That's what I make of this. Do I think that the recession could hit in the summer? Maybe. It can happen anytime because the Fed is already way behind the 8 ball and making mistake after mistake after mistake. Learn what the patterns look like, and when you see them, please believe them. Don't go into denial. Oh, the dollar could never go away. They know this. They knew it when they created the system. They know it today, that if they can keep things as normal looking for you as possible, you will not realize that any change has happened, when in reality, so much has changed and so much is changing. No time to procrastinate. Don't stop. Stop. The dollar's not going to gain its value. You saw the chart. It hasn't in all that time. It's not suddenly magically going to happen now. Get physical gold and silver in your possession. Have a plan. Make sure you have food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation. Community is probably the biggest key, and shelter, because we need to come together. That's why I do these interviews. This is community for me. We need to come together to help each other. This is not going to be fun for anybody. As the Federal Reserve, and they have to, because if they don't raise interest rates now, it will, whatever little bit of credibility they still have in the markets, and that's been getting real thin, it's going to go away. It's going to be really interesting, because I think they're going to do 50% maybe at this next meeting. They will never do a 2%. And even if they did, inflation is running so much hotter than that. So in other words, let's say that they magically somehow, there's no way, okay, I'll put my neck on the line and I'll bet you anything, there is no way on God's green earth that there are 7 consecutive rate hikes in the offing. They just can't do it.